very confident, says he's going to knock you out in the 9th round.
Yeah, man. You know, he's a dumbass, and so it's gonna be apparent on Saturday when he's the one that gets knocked out. I mean, genuinely, fighters always say this. There's the back and forth, but Piers, I'm being so honest, man. This guy is easy work.
Warm up.
Some
I know
8-year-olds. I got the 8-year-olds in there.
If I find out anything, I'm gonna beat your and I'm gonna beat Jadon Love.
I mean, which is nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? Especially Tank been talking about retiring, so why not get the bag and then go about your business if that's your plan?
The internet just witnessed a face-off so brutal, it made every boxing press conference look like a therapy session. Jake Paul, YouTube's self-proclaimed problem child, sat across from Gervonta "Tank" Davis on Piers Morgan's show and got verbally dismantled like a TikTok boxer in over his head. Forget punches. This was psychological warfare in HD. It started like your average interview, but 5 minutes in, Piers looked like a referee trapped in a bar fight he didn't sign up for. Gervonta wasn't just calm, he was surgical. Every word he said sliced through Jake's confidence like a hot knife through ego. Meanwhile, Jake tried his usual "I'm the real fighter" routine, but Tank's smirk said it all. "You don't belong here, kid." What unfolded next had the internet in flames. Memes, reactions, fans screaming, "Jake just got humbled live." This wasn't a face-off. It was a live humiliation session disguised as an interview. And when Piers tried to cool it down, Tank turned it up. This moment didn't just break the internet, it rearranged it. Let's get into how it all started, and why Jake Paul might be regretting this one forever. It all started with a challenge that nobody took seriously. At least, not until it got way too real. Jake Paul, the YouTube sensation turned wannabe fight god, had been calling out boxers left and right like a kid trying to pick a fight at recess. He'd bark at legends, tweet at champs, and drop quotes that made even the most patient athletes roll their eyes. But then he aimed at the wrong target, Gervonta "Tank" Davis. And let me tell you, Tank doesn't play with trolls. For months, Jake had been running his mouth online, claiming that real boxers were ducking him. He bragged about his knockout streak against influencers, retired MMA fighters, and anyone willing to sign a contract. The man basically built his reputation off punching mid-tier opponents with Wi-Fi connections stronger than their chins. But Gervonta Davis, that's a different breed. This isn't some YouTube crossover fantasy. This is a fighter trained to end careers, not content calendars. So when Jake started throwing shade at Gervonta, fans laughed it off. They thought it was another one of his marketing stunts, just loud talk to keep his name trending. But then, out of nowhere, Piers Morgan announced he'd be bringing both Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis face to face for a respectful discussion. Yeah, right. That's like inviting gasoline and fire to have a peaceful conversation. The second the announcement dropped, social media went nuclear. Twitter turned into a digital arena. Hashtags like Chanter Jake vs Tank and Piers Morgan Showdown were trending within hours. Everyone knew Piers wasn't just hosting an interview. He was about to referee a cultural collision. Jake, the king of viral trash talk, versus Gervonta, the silent assassin who lets his fists do the talking. It was the internet's version of David versus Goliath. If David had a podcast and Goliath had knockout power in both hands. When the day came, fans were glued to the stream like it was pay-per-view. Piers opened with his usual calm tone, trying to sound neutral, but you could feel the tension leaking through the screen. Jake came in with his trademark smirk, wearing a designer jacket, looking like he'd come to promote merch rather than discuss boxing. Meanwhile, Gervonta sat there in silence, hoodie up, arms folded, eyes locked. Not at Piers, but straight at Jake. You could tell he wasn't here to talk. He was here to make a statement without throwing a single punch. The first few questions were polite. Piers asked about their upcoming fights, training, legacy, the usual PR stuff. Jake started strong, dropping lines about changing the sport, fighting for respect, and building his empire. You know, the same speech he gives every 6 weeks before uploading another vlog. But Gervonta wasn't buying it. The man didn't even blink. Then came the turning point. Piers asked Gervonta, "Do you think Jake Paul is a real boxer?" And that's when the gloves came off. Verbally, Gervonta leaned forward, looked dead into the camera and said, "He's a YouTuber pretending to play with professionals. There's a difference between boxing for money and boxing for survival." Boom. Instant internet meltdown. Jake's smile twitched for the first time. Piers, sensing blood in the water, pushed further. "Jake, do you think you could beat Gervonta Davis in a real fight?" Jake laughed. That forced, nervous laugh you make when you realize the joke's on you. "Of course, I'd knock him out," he said. Gervonta didn't even respond. He just tilted his head slightly and smirked. That silence hit harder than any punch. You could feel Jake starting to unravel. He tried cracking jokes, talking numbers, mentioning how much money his fights make compared to Gervonta's. Classic influencer deflection. But Tank wasn't interested in money talk. He interrupted Jake mid-sentence with one of the coldest lines in boxing interview history. "You can't buy respect, bro." That line alone broke the internet. Within minutes, TikTok clips of that moment had millions of views. Memes flooded Twitter. One post showed Jake's face next to a Wi-Fi symbol with the caption, "Connection lost." Another said, "Jake's ego just left the chat." It was brutal, and we were only 10 minutes into the interview. Piers tried to steer the conversation back to boxing, but the energy had shifted completely. Gervonta was calm, collected, and dangerous, while Jake started talking faster, louder, desperate to regain control. He began name-dropping Floyd Mayweather, saying, "I've sparred with pros who said I could hang with them." Gervonta didn't even flinch. "They lied," he said, deadpan. The studio went silent. At that moment, it was clear. Jake was out of his depth. Every word he threw was bouncing off Tank like weak jabs, and Piers Morgan, bless his soul, looked like he wanted to evaporate out of his chair. Even he couldn't believe what he was watching. A public dismantling, live on air, and the cameras were eating it up. By the end of the first segment, Jake's confidence had turned into visible frustration. He started fidgeting, adjusting his jacket, forcing laughs that sounded more like cries for help. Meanwhile, Gervonta stayed cool, throwing shade with surgical precision. He said, "You talk too much, Jake. Real fighters don't chase cameras. Cameras chase us." That quote alone had boxing fans declaring, "Tank 1, Jake 0. When the segment cut to a commercial break, the internet exploded. Twitter threads were stacking up faster than Jake's excuses. People weren't even waiting for the full episode. They were already declaring Gervonta the winner of a fight that hadn't even happened. It wasn't just an interview anymore. It was a lesson in humility, televised in 4K. And here's the thing. Jake Paul thrives on chaos, but this time, he wasn't controlling it. Usually, he's the one setting traps, trolling opponents, crafting viral soundbites, making everything about him. But against Gervonta, he met someone who doesn't play games, someone who doesn't need clickbait to be dangerous. By the time they came back from the break, Jake had lost the crowd, both in the studio and online. Even Piers seemed to be leaning toward Gervonta's side, asking sharper questions, poking holes in Jake's bravado. It wasn't a fight, it was an intellectual knockout. Jake came for clout and left with a public lesson in humility. But little did anyone know, the real fireworks were just getting started. Because the internet wasn't done with Jake, and Gervonta wasn't finished talking. What came next turned a simple interview into one of the most viral, explosive, and humiliating moments of Jake Paul's career. If you thought the first half of that interview was awkward, part 2 was a full-on demolition derby. The cameras came back from break, the lights hit, and the energy in that studio had shifted into something electric and dangerous. Jake Paul looked like he had something to prove now, like he'd spent the last few minutes in the dressing room psyching himself up in the mirror. But Gervonta Davis, he looked exactly the same, calm, unreadable, unbothered, like a lion yawning before the hunt. Piers Morgan, probably realizing he was sitting between a ticking time bomb and a human sledgehammer, tried to lighten the mood. He cracked a quick joke about two champions of the internet finally meeting face to face. Jake laughed too loud, too long, that forced influencer energy again, the kind that screams, "I'm fine," when you're clearly not. Gervonta just smirked. That smirk had more power than any insult Jake could ever tweet. Then it started. Piers turned serious and asked Jake about his critics, the ones who say he picks his fights carefully, never against real boxers. Jake jumped on the question like a cat on caffeine. He started listing his accomplishments, stats, pay-per-view numbers, and even quoted his own merch line. "I'm one of the most talked about fighters in the world," he said proudly. Gervonta leaned back in his chair, chuckled, and said, "Yeah, because you talk about yourself more than anyone else." The audience laughed. Even Piers tried not to grin. Jake froze for a second, his eyes flashing that split-second mix of irritation and embarrassment that fans live for. The tables had turned completely. Jake tried firing back. He said, "At least I'm making boxing exciting again. Nobody was talking about boxing until I showed up." Now, that's the moment Tank decided he was done playing polite. He leaned forward and said in that calm, quiet tone that only killers have, "You think boxing needed you? Boxing made people like you possible. Without the fighters who bled before you, there's no Jake Paul." Boom. The internet imploded again. It was like Tank dropped a philosophical grenade in the middle of the studio. A philosophical grenade in the middle of the studio. Fans on X were quoting it instantly. "Without the fighters who bled before you, there's no Jake Paul." It was poetic, brutal, and perfectly timed. Jake tried to shrug it off, but the sweat on his forehead said otherwise. He pivoted to what he does best, drama. "Bro, you're just mad because I'm getting money you'll never touch," he snapped. Classic move. When logic fails, flash the cash. But Tank didn't flinch. He smirked again, leaned into the mic, and said, "You can't cash out on respect, my boy." The audience gasped. Piers Morgan blinked like he'd just heard the ghost of Muhammad Ali whisper in his ear. Even Jake looked like he didn't have a comeback ready. For the first time in a long time, the man who makes a living talking couldn't find words. But here's the thing about Jake Paul. Silence only lasts a second. He wasn't about to let Gervonta steal the show. He forced a laugh and said, "Man, you're acting like I didn't put people to sleep in the ring. Ask Tyron Woodley, ask Ben Askren." And that's when Tank laughed. Not a fake laugh, not a nervous laugh. A genuine, belly-deep laugh. "Those weren't boxers," he said. "Those were retired wrestlers looking for rent money." That line detonated across the internet like wildfire. Within minutes, every major sports page had clipped it. ESPN posted the quote with the caption, "Gervonta Davis tells Jake Paul the truth." TikTok exploded with reaction edits, slow-motion zooms, dramatic music. People were doing meme duets, pretending to be Jake's internal monologue during the roast. One viral tweet said, "Jake Paul just got folded with words. No gloves required." And the funniest part? Piers Morgan was loving it. He tried to act professional, but you could see him grinning like a kid watching a fireworks show. He asked Gervonta, "Do you think Jake's fights hurt the credibility of boxing?" And Gervonta didn't even hesitate. "No," he said. "Clowns make the circus more popular, but they don't run it." It was done. Jake's reputation was being sliced to pieces live, and he couldn't stop it. Every time he tried to defend himself, Tank countered like a veteran dodging weak jabs. Jake's words were getting sloppy. He was repeating himself, losing rhythm, stumbling on phrases. Meanwhile, Gervonta just kept hitting him with short, precise verbal punches that left no room for recovery. By this point, even the live chat during the stream was on fire. Fans were spamming phrases like "Tank's cooking" and "Jake's ego in ICU." It wasn't just boxing fans either. Random internet users who'd never watched a fight in their life were tuning in just to see Jake get humbled. Then came the knockout moment, and it wasn't even about boxing. Piers asked a question that turned the whole interview upside down. "Jake, what do you think motivates Gervonta as a fighter?" Jake smirked and said, "Money, fame, same as everyone else." Wrong answer. Gervonta leaned in close and said quietly, "Nah, pain." The studio fell silent. You could hear the hum of the cameras. Jake blinked, confused. "What do you mean, pain?" he asked. Gervonta's expression hardened. "You fight to stay relevant. I fight to survive." That was it. Game over. Everyone watching knew it. That line wasn't just deep, it was devastating. It wasn't about who sold more pay-per-views. It wasn't about social media clout. It was about heart, history, and reality. Jake tried to pivot, but there was no coming back from that. He laughed awkwardly, but it sounded hollow. Even his usual confidence couldn't mask it. Piers, always the showman, wrapped it up perfectly. "Well, gentlemen, I think we've learned who's the influencer and who's the fighter. Cue chaos." Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, every corner of the internet lit up like Times Square. The memes were endless. Jake's face when Gervonta said pain became an instant reaction meme. Influencers started reacting to the interview, dropping commentary videos titled "Jake Paul just got humbled" or "Gervonta Davis ends Jake Paul's career in 4K. Within 24 hours, the interview had millions of views and tens of thousands of comments. Even other fighters joined the mix. Ryan Garcia tweeted, "Tank just cooked him alive." Floyd Mayweather reposted a clip with a laughing emoji. And Conor McGregor, of course, had to jump in, tweeting, "At least Tank didn't break his jaw like I would have." The internet had declared it unanimous. Gervonta Davis didn't just win the interview, He obliterated Jake Paul's entire public image in under 20 minutes. But this wasn't just an online roast. It was deeper. You could feel a cultural shift, a symbolic reality check for every influencer who thought viral fame could equal combat credibility. For years, Jake Paul built a career off controversy, selling the illusion of dominance. But that day on Piers Morgan's stage, reality punched back, and it didn't miss. Still, what came after was even more insane. Because Jake Paul, the self-crowned king of clapbacks, wasn't going down without swinging back. And when he finally did, it sent shockwaves through the industry, setting up the most anticipated and controversial moment of his career. And now, the aftermath. The part where the dust settles, but the chaos keeps echoing. Jake Paul walked away from that Piers Morgan showdown with a new public reality. He had just been outclassed, outmaneuvered, and publicly humiliated by a man who didn't even throw a single punch. The clips were everywhere: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all looping the same moment. Gervonta Davis casually dropping truth bombs while Jake flailed for relevance. It wasn't just viral, it was cultural waterboarding. For Jake, the damage wasn't just digital, it was reputational. Promoters, brands, and influencers who had previously aligned themselves with him suddenly looked at their endorsements like, do we really want to be associated with this? You could almost hear the Zoom calls. Maybe let's put the merch launch on hold. The man who built an empire on bravado had just been exposed as a showman in front of the world's biggest cameras. Meanwhile, Gervonta Davis, his stock skyrocketed. Analysts and fans alike praised his composure, strategic delivery, and ability to dominate without throwing a single punch. He had proven, beyond doubt, that his reputation wasn't just about athletic ability. It was about intelligence, presence, and that killer instinct that doesn't need a highlight reel. Suddenly, Tank wasn't just a boxer. He was a symbol, a lesson, and a meme all at once. The public fallout was instantaneous. Memes depicting Jake as lost, confused, or emotionally bruised flooded social media. You saw edits where he was photoshopped running from Gervonta, collapsed under a pile of punchlines, or even edited into viral fail compilations. Reaction videos emerged, dissecting every facial twitch, every nervous laugh, every faltering word. Fans turned into armchair analysts overnight. And of course, influencers capitalized on the drama, releasing content titled Jake Paul's Humiliation Live and Gervonta Davis schools Jake Paul. Clicks were skyrocketing, proving once again that humiliation is as addictive as a championship fight. But beyond the memes and viral clips, the interview reshaped perceptions within the boxing community. Trainers, former champions, and even casual fans began speaking out. Many called it a cautionary tale. Respect the craft, respect the experience, or risk public embarrassment. Jake's attempt to portray himself as a legitimate fighter crumbled under the weight of reality, leaving a stark reminder that viral fame doesn't equal skill, and a Twitter following can't substitute years of hard-earned discipline. Jake tried damage control. He uploaded videos claiming, "It's all part of the game. I'm just building hype, and I'll prove myself in the ring, don't worry." But the timing was off. The public had already witnessed the shift, and a significant chunk of fans weren't buying it. Social media polls started showing massive percentages believing Gervonta had won the argument without throwing a single punch. Analysts speculated whether Jake's marketability would suffer or whether controversy would keep him relevant. Either way, his image had changed forever, and let's not forget the Piers Morgan factor. The veteran interviewer had inadvertently become the perfect referee in a live, cultural smackdown. His questions, initially polite, professional, became the catalyst for Jake's unraveling and Gervonta's ascendancy. Even Piers' audience realized they were watching history, the clash of influencer bravado versus real-world skill, all captured on live television, unedited, and utterly humiliating for Jake. As the dust settled, there were lessons for everyone. The casual viewer saw entertainment, the die-hard boxing fan saw a tactical breakdown, and Jake, well, he was left to reflect on how viral confidence only goes so far against tangible talent. Meanwhile, Gervonta emerged untouchable, respected, celebrated, and trending like a true champion should be. But here's the kicker. The story didn't just end with humiliation and clout shifts. This event set up an entire narrative arc for the future. Rematches, social media jabs, potential face-offs in the ring, and endless debate over who truly reigns supreme. The internet thrives on anticipation, and this showdown delivered the kind of content that fuels endless speculation, heated arguments, and of course, more clicks than anyone could count. By the time the interview footage made its rounds across YouTube, TikTok compilations had already amassed millions of views. Analysts dissected every smirk, every pause, every awkward shift. Headlines read like tabloid fireworks. Jake Paul destroyed by Gervonta Davis on live TV. The moment you knew Jake couldn't handle Tank, and Piers Morgan never saw it coming. It was chaotic, viral, and unforgettable. A perfect storm for modern internet culture. A perfect storm for modern internet culture. And Jake, he's already plotting his next move. Whether it's a ring redemption, an apology tour, or another viral stunt, one thing is certain. This moment redefined his public persona. For Gervonta, it cemented dominance, control, and the kind of narrative that doesn't need social media manipulation to sell itself. In the end, this face-off wasn't just an interview. It was a masterclass in humility, strategy, and the harsh reality that online bravado can crumble under real-world scrutiny. Fans will be talking about it for years, memes will be circulating for months, and boxing pundits will dissect it endlessly. One live session, one calm gaze, and one savage delivery. And the internet learned a hard truth. In the ring of influence, words can hit harder than fists, and some people are just untouchable. Gervonta Davis walked away untouched. Jake Paul? He walked away with the world watching, questioning, and laughing. A public lesson no amount of training or hype could erase. And if the internet loves anything, it's exactly this kind of brutal, unfiltered, unforgettable chaos. And there you have it. Jake Paul humiliated, Gervonta Davis untouchable, and the internet officially broken. But we're not done here. Oh no, this is the Punch Press, your ultimate front row seat to celebrity chaos, wild feuds, and moments that make headlines explode. And if you think this drama ends with just one interview, you clearly don't know the internet. Here's what you need to do. Smash that like button like it owes you $1 million fight purse. Go ahead, obliterate it. Hit comment below and tell us. Was Gervonta Davis the undisputed verbal knockout king? Or do you think Jake Paul still has a shot at redemption? We want your wildest takes, your memes, and your savage opinions. Make your voice heard before the next round of chaos hits. And if you're new here, don't even think about scrolling past without subscribing. This is where scandals drop faster than a boxing glove in the 4th round. And if you blink, you'll miss the next explosive moment. Hit that bell icon so you're first in line when the internet's next meltdown goes live. Trust me, you don't want to be late. Remember, the drama doesn't sleep, the memes don't quit. And here at the Punch Press, we break it all down faster, sharper, and wilder than anyone else. So buckle up, stay tuned, and never underestimate a fighter who knows how to deliver a KO with words. Because in the world of viral celebrity showdowns, some punches aren't thrown, they're spoken. And this one, legendary.